Hello, and welcome to our first unofficial podcast. Today I'm joined with Yankee from Yankees Outdoor Adventures and LockIsLive as our moderator. And I'll have links in the description below to their channels. And this is just a headfirst dive in using Twitter Spaces and a discussion about a broad range of topics, from conspiracy theories, cryptids, paranormal, sciences, and UAPs. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button with all notifications on. Thank you for listening, and we'll have more content coming soon.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is LockIsLive. You may know me on YouTube, and if you don't, you do now, or at least know my voice. Today, we got Yankees Outdoor Adventures.
Hello, guys.
And we also have Dragon Tech with us. So we had this idea of kind of doing this podcast type of format on YouTube, on Twitter Space, any platform we can kind of push out this audio, Spotify, iTunes. We're going to look into that within time. Guys, we are not pros. We're not professionals, so work with us. The quality is going to hopefully improve in time. We're going to hope it's not going to worsen in time. We're going to finger cross that it's going to improve. We're new to this. As I said, we're not professionals, so work with us. So today we're going to be getting into conspiracy theories, just kind of general conspiracy theories. This podcast in general is going to be about conspiracy theories. Usually we'll get into more specifics, but just for our first episode, we're going to have a more broad conversation.
Right on. And I guess, as far as what we're saying with the broad conversation is we're just going to kind of talk about conspiracies in general. As far as wouldn't mind throwing out there just the plain simple fact that here in America, in bare minimum, conspiracies is kind of a way of life. We kind of like to not believe everything we're told. I'm not quite sure where that embedded instinct comes from, but it's something most Americans have.
We had a conversation off camera. Are you able to hear me? We had a conversation off camera. Sorry. Getting used to Twitter Space here. Getting used to this podcast thing here. But me and Yankee had a conversation off camera how conspiracy theories have blown up recently. With COVID happening, the government was very quick to now this is not a conspiracy theory. This has recently been proven true with Twitter releasing different files. The government paid Twitter to hide information about like anti-vaccine and stuff. And we're not going to get into the political side of things because at this point, that's everywhere else on the internet. We're going to give you a safe space where you don't have to worry about politics. These conspiracy theories are just fun. But with that being said, the government was paying Twitter to kind of censor anti-vaccination information, and it was considered a conspiracy theory for vaccines to have this side effect, this side effect, this side effect, because at the end of the day, it's an experimental drug. So at the end of the day, there was room for conspiracy theories. The government was like, no, we're not going to have that. That's just too risky to have out there. So Twitter was getting paid to be quiet. And YouTube,
Locke, like we were having in that conversation, it was really it was a key point to that was the fact that once an item becomes a conspiracy, it's really hard to remove it from the conspiracy table, and that's part of that example, because even though at this point in time we have people coming forward on facts that were once conspiracy, you still get looked at as a conspiracist if you say it to the wrong group of people. So it's still on that conspiracy table regardless, and that's where it'll remain.
I think where people get kind of lost and confused is where they no longer want to entertain the conversation, where they just want to immediately shut that down. I like to hear, obviously I don't believe that the earth is flat, but I like to hear the perspective of why people think the earth is flat, because to me that seems like such a drastic stretch. That seems like such a reach, but then it brings in the conversation that NASA was created by Nazis, so you're not able to trust those guys to some extent, or at least a lot of people believe. So we're going to get into all different conspiracy theories. Some we believe, some we don't believe. We're going to dive in to the ones we believe in a little bit more, because obviously there's going to be more hard evidence for those conversations. Hey, yo, Dre, are you dying over there, man?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I hit my mute switch on my headset, but I guess it didn't mute.
It's all
Sorry.
good. It's all good. I personally just,
Excuse me.
you're good. I'm just saying this with love and respect. If possible, mute your mic, I guess, when you're moving around a little bit.
I'll use the mute on the app next time. I'm sorry about that.
No, we're all learning here. We're all learning here, guys. This is trial and error. We're gonna get better. Don't worry about it. I understand. I signed up for this with doing a podcast with some older men. What I was going to get back into, though, I believe YouTube was also probably paid by the government, just like Twitter was paid by the government to be quiet. Or at least they've seen other social medias quieting conspiracy theories. So during COVID, a lot of conspiracy theory channels were deleted. And now they're allowed because the whole vaccine situation is not as big. And now there's a demand for this kind of podcast. And that's why we started this thing.
Right. Go ahead, Dragon.
Oh, I was going to say, as of recently, that you were talking about the Pfizer COVID thing. Pfizer was actually one of the advertisers for YouTube. So, the advertisers got a lot of say and pull with these social media platforms, what they want on their platforms and what they want taken off of there. Because that's where they make most of their money from. Because being YouTube is owned by Google, Google's always made money through advertisement. They've never was just a search engine company. Their money maker's always been advertisements.
And it's a sister company of who? Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Disney, man. Their name's all over everything. But
Disney's gonna buy the moon soon, I'm pretty sure. I'm looking forward to that.
Don't they own it already?
Probably.
You mean they don't own it already?
Probably. I'm surprised we haven't been able to look up and see Mickey Mouse up there.
Yes, I was gonna say.
I think it's just a matter of time.
Hey, man, one day it'll either be the Mickey Mouse or it'll be the symbol on the Chinese flag, one or the other.
Yep, we'll see which one comes first.
What movie was that where the guy was stranded with an alien and they couldn't speak to each other and they finally learned each other's language a little bit and he told him his god was Mickey Mouse. You know the movie?
Enemy Mine.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That was the name of it. It was a good movie too.
It was a good movie. Yeah, it was a good movie.
All
right, go ahead.
What year did that come out? That one's beyond me.
Oh goodness, that was when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, you weren't even a glimmer in your daddy's eye yet.
Probably
there,
not.
Locke.
No.
1985.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So if I said, "Oh yeah, I remember watching that movie in the theater," y'all all be like, okay, yeah."
Well, you never know.
Locke's
could be reincarnated.
First conspiracy theory right there.
There you go. Hey, that is a conspiracy, though. There's people that believe there's a Project Looking Glass, that the government has the ability to look and see into the future and even send messages. Is such a thing true? If so, it don't seem like they helped us with it any. I don't, my opinion. But
let's talk about time traveling. I feel like that would be very interesting.
Time travel is a cool theory, and I put thought to the newest thing you hear that people quickly bust time travel with. Well, you got to remember everything's moving, right? The Earth is even moving. So if you right now went back in time, right now from where you are, you'd be floating in space because the Earth wouldn't even be there. That's like the biggest counter reaction to time travel right now. Okay. But here's my turn on that. Okay. I got a turn for that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What if that's because you're looking at time as a relevant item to you? Maybe time is a relevant item to space, to the universe. It's part of a natural element. So if you went back in time, had that ability, you would actually go back in time everywhere. That's because time is an element all through space. So you would turn all time. So the Earth would be there.
So this is kind of the way I view time traveling, and to me, hypothetically speaking, just to entertain the idea. Now, I don't believe in time traveling necessarily, just due to my Christian values, just due to my personal beliefs, which is a whole nother conversation we'll set aside here. But if I was to entertain this conversation, which is an important thing to do, you guys got to be open-minded here. But if I was to entertain this conversation, I would believe that time traveling would be interdimensional. And when you travel to another point in time, you are not messing with your timeline, but another person's timeline. I could entertain that theory a little bit more personally.
See, and then in my opinion, that would in sense just not even be time travel, right? That would just be dimensional travel.
That's true. Yeah.
Or
because time
parallel
wouldn't
universe.
be relevant. Right. Yeah. Time wouldn't be relevant. Maybe in the parallel universe, dinosaurs never met their end, so they're everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's not really time travel, but yeah, you see dinosaurs because you're in a parallel universe where they were never destroyed. Maybe you're in the exact same time. Maybe you would never change time just to change, the paradox of a reality, whatever you want to refer to it as.
If you do go back in time, it no longer becomes the past anymore, because the past actually becomes your present. And just by you being there, your presence is already affected where you came from in the future. Therefore, the future is no longer your present anymore. It's definitely going to change. It's just like they said, when you go back to the prehistoric age, you step on a butterfly, hence probably what they call the butterfly effect.
There you go.
And that could change the whole state of evolution from a scientific point of view. If you're going down that route of evolution right there. But as a matter of fact, there is a professor.
I would just say, before you got onto that track, I'd say that the counter to that, though, would be that if it happens, it happens because it was meant to. Why do we know it was meant to? It's because it happened. Meaning that if I went back and stepped on a butterfly, I have always went back and stepped on a butterfly. There will be no change.
It's almost at a point where it's like, if you think it, therefore it happened.
There you go, right? I mean, these are the rabbit holes you fall down, right? Because if you could think it, you just created your own conspiracy twist to the whole plot.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of name you would give it, but it's definitely some sort of paradox. That's for sure.
Right.
There's a gentleman by the name of Professor Ron Mallett from the University of Connecticut, and I'm reading this from the New York Post, because I remember seeing on TV once a guy actually did build a time machine. Now, not a time machine in the way we think, not no Back to the Future or
it wasn't a DeLorean.
No, it wasn't a DeLorean. It wasn't. It was it Orson Welles that made that famous book and
Yes.
Also the movie The Time Machine. Okay.
Yes.
And but it was done with
not
laser
the movie,
light.
but the book.
Yeah, it was done. Yeah. The guy made a time machine with lasers because he felt like, it falls under Einstein's theory, E equals MC square, and he figures, if gravity affects light, then if light should be able to affect, gravity affects light and time, therefore the other two should be able to affect the others. So he makes this like a cubicle looking thing, a spiral of lasers. They don't curve, they're just in a square shape because the laser only goes straight. But he was able to drop like some sort of nanoparticle. What particle was, I can't remember. But as it was, soon, just right before it entered, it came out the other side already.
Right. So, and I know the experiment you're talking about, and the nanoparticle you're talking about is actually particles you get when you split down atom. Okay. So we're talking, these are immensely small particles. So as far as a practical use at this point, it's, what would it be? We don't know, but you're 100% correct that the particle actually exited as it entered. That's a 100% true statement. So the particle traveled in time. They were also able to do the same thing with the particle on a receiver. The reason they went to a receiver end is more of a digital. Okay, so they collected evidence of the particle digitally before it exited, which means they may in the future be able to send a signal. Now, again, we're talking about a millisecond of time. All right, we're not talking about didn't send it to a year to the future. I sent it a millisecond to the future. But it is real. They were able to do it. So there you go. That is time travel.
Yeah. I mean, so therefore it's basically no longer a theory anymore. So I mean, it's perfectly possible, but to enhance it to make more time. Yeah.
Backwards, they didn't do. Okay, they did that forward test. Forward has never been a problem. Anybody can be a time traveler right now. If you got the ability to get up into outer space and go to speed of light, or as close to the speed of light as you could possibly get. Now, right now, we don't go very fast, but in the future, I'm sure at some point we will. Now, if you get in a spaceship and you go to speed of light for a year, and then go a speed of light another year back to Earth again, you'll only be 2 years older, but everybody on Earth will be hundreds of years older. So you traveled in time. There's no doubt that's what you did, because time is relevant. The speed of time is relevant to to space, to light, speed, the whole 9 yards. Gravity, it all affects time just like it affects everything else. So it's just an element of space. Time is as well. So.
I know this is such a funny comparison here, but the Lightyear movie, have any of y'all seen that by chance?
Is that where they kept progressing in time much faster?
Yes, everyone around him.
Yeah, on Earth or wherever, in the spaceship or wherever they were. Yeah. I remember
exactly what you explained, where due to him moving the speed of light, he was staying young while everyone around him was dying and aging. And it was such and I'm going to leave this short and quick here, but it was such a intense topic and such a thought-provoking topic for a Disney Pixar for sure.
Right.
And sorry.
No, go ahead.
Dragon Tech looked like you unmuted your mic for a second. Were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I was going to say I didn't see the Lightyear movie. That's Buzz Lightyear, right? We're talking about.
Yeah. I know we're off topic here, but you mentioned time travel, and I thought of that, or not necessarily time travel, but moving the speed of light.
I mean, there was that movie of Matthew McConaughey called Interstellar, which was it's basically the same thing. He ends up coming back and seeing his granddaughter towards the end. I mean, he didn't age a bit since he left the Earth, but he was able to do faster light travel by slingshotting or basically around or going through a black hole, actually. But theoretically, so if we could travel at the speed of light and we could slingshot around a black hole, a massive black hole is usually like at the center of our galaxies, it is theoretically possible to go faster than the speed of light. Now, the one problem, once you start getting closer to the speed of light, you become what they call getting close to infinite mass. And we don't have the technology right now to come up with what they would call inertial dampeners to counter effect that infinite mass, because
it squishes you apart going that fast.
Yeah,
there's no way we could do it.
Yeah, you basically be two-dimensional by the time you'd be so flat, you'd be two-dimensional. You wouldn't even be a three-dimensional space anymore.
Exactly. It'd be like going through a black hole. Theoretically, what they believe would happen would be you would actually stop in time as you entered the hole. You know, you would always be entering and always be not entering. As you got closer and closer, because time would change so much for you in the speed of fall, that you would fall so fast that you would stand still, if that makes sense. To you would stand still. To me, I'd watch you fall in. To you, you'd be falling forever.
Yep. and here's another interesting fact. I mean, it'll take some time for it to happen, but time runs was it like, say if you had two identical stopwatches, they're perfectly synced, but you got one in each hand, you're holding them at exactly the same level. Put that one stopwatch down by your feet, while it's running and hold the other one above your head. And believe it, due to gravity, just the Earth's gravity alone, and over probably immense amount of time, those two will become out of sync because of the one up in the air is going to run, I believe, slower. I believe it is, but it would be like by nanoseconds, or even
we proved
milliseconds
it.
over time.
We were able to prove gravity and speed's effect long time ago. Once we were able to fly a plane the distance and refuel it and fly the distance of around the world. Once we were able to do that with a plane flying at the highest altitude with a stopwatch started at the same time as one that was on the ground next to it when it took off. At its highest altitude, it'll arrive a few nanoseconds behind the one on the ground, so on a flight around the world. So there you go. We can see it in that small of a scale. We can actually see it.
And for anyone who needs a little bit of a dumber explanation like me, pretty much the position of watch determines how gravity affects the moving parts of the movement within the watch, which is very interesting. You would figure just lifting the watch up for just higher, just for whatever period of time, regardless of it being higher than the other watch, you would figure that would not be high enough for gravity to take effect, but it does. So that's very interesting. It's something I'm learning here as well.
Yeah, well, gravity's an interesting thing itself. Again, here, we stride ourselves to know so much about everything as human beings, but the very thing that keeps our feet on the ground, we know very, very little about. We know if we hold something up and drop it, it'll fall. But the exact hows and whys, we don't have those answers. We really don't.
Yeah, but scientists, they say scientists this day, they understand very little how gravity works. All they know, it's mostly tied to mass. And usually with more mass, the more intense the gravity. Therefore, it's like Air Force pilots, when they do a real sharp turn, it's measured in G forces, and it's basically it's gravity. That's why a lot of them, these high state of the art maneuverable planes, they used to wear G suits, and that would pressurize to keep them from blacking out, from making these such sharp turns to keep their blood flowing to their brain.
Yep. Keep their blood from thinking.
I found an article from newscientist.com, and I find it kind of interesting. It says, take a moment to try to jump into the air. Have you ever thought about how remarkable it is that little effort is required to jump a few inches off the ground? Your punny muscles, weighing just a few kilograms, it can overcome the gravitational force of the earth. All 6 times, we're going to skip the math bit of it, not reading it, don't care, not a math class, but all of it will, all the kilograms are taking off. I'm paraphrasing here. Gravity is a real weakling, times weaker. Let's see here. I'm skipping through the article. Give me just 1 second. Although the other part. Give me just 1 second. There is an interesting part here. Okay, here it is. You can cut that little bit out. So I found an article at newscientist.com that says something pretty interesting, I thought. It says, so far, our best explanation comes from a string theory, the leading candidate for a theory of everything. String theory requires that the universe has more than the 3 spatial dimensions that we experience, and possibly as many as 10. According to string theorists, best ideas, gravity is so weak because, unlike the other forces, it leaks in and out of these extra dimensions. So there's a lot of interesting parts where you jump up and then you fall very quickly down. So it's like, well, why is gravity so weak? That's what it's explaining here. We only get to experience a dribble of true strength of gravity is what this string theorist believes.
See, and in my opinion, when you look at gravity, it's so immense because look at how it barely pulls on you, but yet it's the same force that holds the moon.
Well, apparently gravity is the weakest force we know of, interestingly enough.
But yet it holds everything in space. Look at it, how it works across the board, right? For it to be the weakest element, it does the most. Or at least it's what it seems it does. It keeps everything from flapping into each other, right?
It's funny because
Somehow.
on the NASA website, it's like, why do we not understand gravity? Their answer is, we don't really know. And then they give a bunch of extra wordage just to make it seem like they have an idea of direction. But the first sentence to their answer is all you really need to know, where they say, we don't really know.
We don't know. It works. We can tell you that.
I've never really thought about that either. I'm over here learning a lot, and hopefully you guys listening to the podcast are learning just as much as we are.
It's gravity's like I said, but that's not really a conspiracy, but it is a very interesting force of nature. And I guess that's what we have to call it.
To get back into the conspiracy theories, though, we're talking about space. We're talking about the galaxy a little bit. We're talking about gravity. Do we want to entertain the conversation of the Earth is flat? Do we want to dive into that a little bit more?
I'm just not nobody's ever given me enough to believe it, so I can't that I can't speak much on its behalf.
Well, there is an easy scientific test to prove it. Just start walking a straight line, and if you fall off, you'll know.
Yeah,
if you don't, if you come back to the start, you'll know that answer too.
Bring your phone with you. Keep it on the Twitter line here, and I'll add you as a guest as you're falling, and you can tell us what's happening.
So
isn't Kanye West one of them flat worlder theories too?
Kanye West
He may be.
A lot of things, but I do not believe he believes in the flat Earth.
I thought I read an article somewhere, but I'm not sure if it was him or not.
That may have been an Onion article, even. I don't know. I haven't heard of that.
Oh, that could be. They're good at getting me with thinking it's real news.
Well, there you go. Which and then it rolls into a conspiracy eventually if it's good enough story. That's again, it's all it takes for a conspiracy is a good enough story, because people are already inclined to believe. They're already inclined to believe that there's something that they don't know. And as human beings, our brains hate not knowing. That's why we fill in so many blanks. That's why we make up so many excuses when we don't know the answer.
So as of now, we don't really have much conversation on the Earth being flat, but let's keep it in the same bubble. However, I feel like we definitely have a conversation on the moon landing being fake.
You know what? As far as the moon landing goes, I don't believe. What I actually believe is that we were in a race with a country, and we needed the propaganda. So I, yes, believe we made it to the moon, but I, yes, also believe we falsified propaganda because it was helping our cause. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Also, within that race too is also to flex our space superiority too, and you know how it goes. The first one gets there, they plant their flag, they take a claim. Much like on the last Twitter space we talked on, you talking about how each of these countries that take a claim to Antarctica, they sent a woman there that was pregnant to give birth in order to make it the offspring an official citizen of Antarctica, so each one of those countries could have a claim to Antarctica. It's probably the same way with the moon or any other astral or celestial object.
I'd imagine. Personally, here you go, conspiracy theory. I believe sex in space was a practiced test that took place with our NASA. I think the astronaut lady who lost her marbles and wore a diaper and rode across the country to kill her astronaut boyfriend or his wife or whatever, however that story played out. I believe that was because NASA didn't take into consideration that people are people and they get attached to one another, and they were just worried about the experiment of sex in space. Zero gravity sex.
Humans are
my
extremely hormonal. So to completely dismiss that, to me, would be crazy. I feel like Who wouldn't be curious about that? Honestly, I know it's a bit of a taboo topic for many, but realistically, who wouldn't be curious about that? Like,
Right, but it wouldn't be an advertised program. It's like NASA likes to tell its kids what they're doing in space. They're not going to say, "Yeah, we're trying to see if Bobby can get Jill pregnant." No, we're not going to say that, right?
I wonder what that baby would look like, though. I wonder would it affect anything.
I bet you they know. I bet you they know. I mean, come on. I mean, that's I gotta watch how much I go into saying here and don't want to get in trouble on Twitter. But it's mankind, that's kind of like our thing is doing things. So I believe without a doubt we've done that.
Well, we already know with long, like especially people that stayed up on the International Space Station, and they stay up there months at a time. I think roughly around 6 months is the average. But even short term astronauts that go in space during the shuttle program, when they came back, they lose a lot of calcium in their bones, and there's a lot of muscle mass lost because they don't have as much gravity to fight against. That's why they got those strapped in type of machines that causes resistance. They got like little exercise bikes and stuff on the stations and stuff to keep their muscles up.
Do you remember we had a woman on the space station who out of the blue made a call to NASA to come get me immediately because I'm being assaulted? Do y'all remember that story? NASA covered that up really quick and really easy. And once again, I feel that just comes down to you got one girl on a space station with 7 guys. NASA's not thinking about the emotional aspect of their experiment. And that's what happened there, too.
Yeah, guys, they must have covered up fast because I didn't even hear about that. I didn't know that even happened.
Yeah, you could still find it. The whole incident, what NASA pushed it off as because it hit the news, so they had to get a cover story. They claimed that one of the Russian astronauts arrived to the station. No, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. The woman had requested they come got her right after she had arrived to the station. Is how that went down. And the woman arrived to the station, and the Russian astronaut who had been there a long time had a custom in their country that you kiss and hug a woman when you met her on the space station. They've had a couple Russian astronaut women up there too, and that was just their custom. Well, apparently she thought he was a little too fresh when he was doing the hugging and the kissing, and she wanted off immediately. But that's how that one went down.
Oh, that is interesting. So yeah, I got a little too handsy, I guess they say.
Yeah. But again, that was a story, again, they covered up and told us. But, to me, it tells me that there's probably more than we realize going on.
Interestingly enough, I try to Google it, and usually, you use the right key terms, you can find something fairly quick. I can't find this thing. I probably
can't find it.
I might be looking the wrong thing up. I bet you have to have very specific key terms, keywords to find.
Did you find the astronaut woman that wore the diaper and rode across the country?
I can look that up.
Or did they bury that too?
Let me see.
That's the weird thing, man. Is certain people do have the ability to bury their stories. And again, welcome to conspiracy land, because you try to bury a story and see what happens.
And also within the conspiracy theory sphere, Google won't tell you everything. Matter of fact, there was a young kid, I want to say roughly about 12, 13 years old, a child prodigy. He was already in college, a real smart, high IQ kid. He did a thesis to see if Google was biased, and come to find out it was. He did a lot of testing and was able to prove it. So sometimes I go to they claim they're an unbiased search engine, DuckDuckGo, and sometimes I run searches in there and I find what I'm looking for. So sometimes if it's something really controversial, Google may not give it to you.
That's true.
Woman,
sorry.
Go ahead. The woman in the diaper. Yep. I might butcher her name here, but it's Nowak. So I'm gonna take a guess here. Noak, maybe something around there. pled insanity, and her criminal case is now sealed.
Yeah, see, why would it be sealed? Why would it be sealed, Locke? Think about that a minute. Why?
There's definitely something to hide.
Yeah, this woman wore a diaper to ride. I mean, she lost her nut, man, to put on a diaper. She put on a diaper because she didn't want to stop. She drove cross country, pissed and shit herself so that she could get there quick. And then I don't know, man. I can't see why they would cover the story up, except for the fact that they were all astronauts. So there was a little more to the case. There was a reason why she lost her marbles.
I found a short summary here, and I'm going to read it real quick. It says, the shy 43-year-old mother, I don't know about shy personally, but, whatever. The shy 43-year-old mother of 3 from League City who operated the robotic arm on the International Space Station and was employed at Johnson Space Center, wore maximum absorption garments, diapers, government-issued astronaut diapers during her 950-mile drive from Houston to Orlando to confront her former lover's girlfriend, Colleen Shipman, a U.S. Air Force engineer. Shipman, he's just meant to be there. What an interesting name to have there. Okay, then it says...
I was going to say the irony of that.
I know, right? I'm going to see Shipman wearing my diaper. Go ahead, Locke.
The story and the jokes just write themselves here. It almost feels like an Onion article. Noack later, and as I said, might be butchering her name here, Noack later told authorities she used 2 diapers to avoid making pit stops before arriving at her destination. Arriving at her destination around midnight on February 5th, 2007, disguised in a black wig and hat. She'd brought a steel mallet and a buck knife, a BB gun with ammo, latex gloves, 4 feet of rubber tubing, duct tape, garbage bags, a floppy disk. This list, there's not much of an explanation here. This is a very weird combination of things right off the bat. She told the authorities she just wanted to talk to Shipman. I don't know about you, but when I meet up with someone, I don't really bring latex gloves, garbage bags, a floppy disk, BB gun with ammo, a steel mat. Normally, I just maybe bring my cell phone if I'm talking to someone. I don't really bring all that personally. Maybe that's just a me thing, though. So
she should have sent a text, man.
Yeah, I think that would have been a little bit better here. In possession of Shipman's travel plans, Noack caught up with her at Orlando International Airport, following her onto a bus to a nearby parking lot and finally to her car, where she reached inside the window and blasted her victim with pepper spray. Noack, who was later discharged from NASA and the Navy, pleaded guilty to felony burglary of a car and misdemeanor battery. Though she'd initially been charged with attempted kidnapping and burglary. I do still have anxiety, Shipman says. I would too. I'm always looking over my shoulder. Noack's whereabouts. Now, this is the weird part. Her whereabouts are unknown, but one thing is certain. Her name is still the first thing to pop up when you Google astronaut diapers. So you can find her when you Google astronaut diapers. However, where is she? Now, that question isn't answered.
NASA's hiding her, maybe.
I'd say so. That's very... She knew too much information for her to just be thrown in a normal prison. That's what I say.
Oh, she worked the robotic arm, huh? Is that what they call it nowadays in space? That's terrible.
Well, they probably got her in an undisclosed mental institute location somewhere, maybe even government run or military funded, and probably not letting her see the light of day or to talk to anybody. But I think the real conspiracy is I just heard from Yankee how good she went across the whole country on 2 of these NASA diapers. Why ain't we selling these to mothers out there for infants? Because they're going through how many diapers a day? Because apparently these NASA ones are much better quality.
Well, you still rash bad if you don't get the shit out, man. So,
should we ask why you know that, or is this just a conspiracy theory?
Now I'm imagining Irish kids, man. You got to change those diapers no matter how good they are.
But buying stock in that gold bond powder for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Some Desta cream.
I almost don't even know where to go from there, if I'm being honest. That was such a beautiful, interesting, weird story. The names, the situation, everything just wrote itself. It was, where do we go from there? That's the $1 million question. Should we wrap this up or should we keep going?
We can do whatever you want to do. I might wrap it up there on a video though, and then make a second out of whatever else we do, because I've been thinking about that as we were talking,
Okay. I think this would be a good way to wrap it up. This being our first episode, kind of have it short and sweet, kind of see feedback, go from there. Obviously, I mispronounced some things. I stuttered a little bit. There were some parts where maybe Dragon Tech, #exposed, didn't have his mic muted and stuff. We're all learning here. This is the first episode.
Well, you do, and we really did, guys. We went off off rail with this. We didn't pre-plan the topic or anything, so we probably could have had our dates and names put together a whole lot better if we thought about it first. Maybe that should be for the next time.
It'll be interesting to see how people enjoy this and how this will evolve.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too. I don't know if it was enough conspiracy for the crowd or not. And I do know, like, in the future, we're definitely going to get into a lot of other things, from bigger known conspiracies to cryptids and like Bigfoots and monsters. And I mean, I was looking at a site earlier today, and the amount of searches in 1 year for cryptid lore is amazing in America. And it's, so it's definitely some of the topic we're going to be getting into in the future.
Hopefully this episode kind of gives y'all an idea of what we're trying to capture, where we're going. I would consider this, even though we recorded an episode that unfortunately won't be heard again, or at least we streamed it, and Twitter Space is weird, so it didn't record it. And I was like, dang, that was a really good episode. So this is the actual released pilot. We had an unreleased pilot, for better or for worse, but this is the released pilot. So hopefully y'all enjoyed kind of the direction of where we want to take things. And Dragon Tech, I believe you want to speak.
Yeah, I see a little red flashing light up in the corner here. It's saying record. I don't know if that's recording or somebody was supposed to push that. But yeah, but also we'll try to plan it out, something better, and we'll just put a topic on it, and we'll try to stay focused on the topic at hand there, and maybe work with some other social media platform where we can actually get on there, use cameras and microphones, and use our OBS recording encoder to record the whole conversation, and then be just much easier to throw it up on YouTube and do some premieres or something.
Right on. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea to me.
It's definitely going to be a lot of trial and error, and hopefully you guys are going to be sticking with us. I think it's going to be interesting, hopefully, to see how episode 1 is compared to episode 10. I mean, you look at anyone's first YouTube video, it's not going to be that great. And then you look at their newest YouTube video, and they're like, oh, okay, I see this thing. They're doing the damn thing. So it's interesting to see our growth.
We'll find ourselves.
And we'll get a foot in the door. And hopefully this was still a good first episode. Once again, my name is LockIsLive. We got Yankees Outdoor Adventure as a host as well. And then we got Dragon Tech. Looking forward to seeing more and doing this more. And Yankee, there's a beautiful, beautiful quote that I want you to end this with. I think you might know what I'm talking about here.
I don't know. Go ahead. You fire it.
It's the Holes quote.
It's the what?
It's the
Holes quote?
Yeah.
No, that's a starter, dude. That's a starter.
Okay. Well, I guess you have to wait for the next episode to hear.
We got that in there. It'll be at the start of this one.
All right. Sounds good. That's
all right, guys. All right. I'm going to hit the end, man.
Sounds good.
Okay, yo.